All right. It is 4 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. And Janet, can we visually do the roll?
Yes, Mayor Juan and Councilmember Trupiano look like you're present.
All right,
We're
perfect.
here. Thank you.
All right. Public comment on non-agenda items. I have one speaker card. Mr. Hartley, you are up.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Ed Hartley, 972 Kenston Drive. I intended to make these comments at the council meeting last week, but I got here late. I have been reading and hearing lately that the stated desire to have CBCA pay more to put on its festivals is not just about paying for existing permits whose fees have been waived in the past. The primary desire that I'm reading and hearing about is that it is only right for CBCA to pay its fair share of city employee pension benefits in addition to continuing to pay employee overtime, and that it is only right for CBCA to pay its fair share for the wear and tear on city property on the 3 weekends a year it has festivals. It seems to me that where this is going is the imposition of new fees, not heretofore imposed, on festivals that raise money that is put back into the community. Last week, I was paying a parking meter in Walnut Creek, something I hadn't done in a long time. And it dawned on me that if the council really wanted to recoup wear and tear on city property from the people who use the city property, that one logical extension of the desire to have CBCA pay for wear and tear is to share this among the community. So maybe parking meters should be something that the city should consider on Center Street, Main Street, the side streets, and the 2 city parking lots. And that if wear and tear to the Grove Park is an issue, that perhaps a small fee should be considered for people using the park and its amenities, or the 1,500 or so people that show up for 8 or 10 weekends, 8 or 10 Saturdays a year to enjoy the concerts. This could also be extended to other events that close down Main Street, like the Soapbox Derby or the 4th of July parade that shut down Main Street and Center Street. As I was thinking about it, there's really no philosophical difference between charging CBCA for things like wear and tear if the desire is for the city to recoup its costs, whatever those are. And I hope we will hear about those at some point. Now, I believe that these would be very unpopular decisions if they were implemented. But I would hope that the council is going to consider whether to do that and to explain to the community, if it rejects those ideas, why it is rejecting them in favor of having somebody like CBCA pay more to the city to put on its festivals. So let me just state, I'm not here as a representative of CBCA, although I'm a longtime member. These are my own personal comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on non-agenda items? Janet, I don't know if we have anyone on the...
Mayor Juan, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Okay. I'm going to wait 1 second. Okay. I'm just waiting to see if he was going to take a speaker card, but apparently not. So, all right, then I will close public comment on non-agenda items and move on to action items. This is the report on the proposed operations and maintenance budget, and I will turn it over to Mr. Manal.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
In this general direction.
Mayor Juan and Councilmember Trupiano. So I'm just going to give some brief introductory comments to kick off the fiscal year 2024 budget season that we're now entering into, and it's going to be full steam ahead. In today's budget, you're going to hear 4 reports given by members of the financial team. One is on the fiscal year 23-24 operating budget. The other is on our draft capital improvement plan, or CIP. It's a 5-year plan that will be presented by our city engineer. We're also going to be going over our revised investment policy in the hopes that we can get that to a place where we can take that back to the city council for formal adoption in a near meeting. And then finally, we're going to go over the update of the master fee schedule so that you can hear where that process is and ask any questions about that. One of the things that we try to accomplish in this year's budget is to improve upon some of our past practices, and so they'll be mentioned as we're going over our reports to try to make the budget better able to account for where money is coming and going, and that allows for our reporting to be done more effectively. We're also, in this year's budget, the fiscal year 22-23 budget, we're projecting a budget surplus coming out of the end of this year. And then in next year's budget, we're showing a deficit currently with deficit spending for the next 5 years, but then we'll talk in more detail about that. There's also some funds that previously showed a fund balance in their reserves that have exhausted those fund balances, and those would be the Landscape Maintenance District, the Streetlight District, the Oakhurst GAD, as well as the Stormwater Assessment District. So usually that doesn't happen all at one time. Usually those would occur over time, but it's a perfect storm, and so we have 4 of those coming up right now. We're not saying that the city council, the Budget and Audit Committee, or the city council will need to resolve those issues this year, but we just want to bring it to your attention based upon projections of what we believe are expenditures that are necessary and revenues that will be coming into those funds, that will be the case with those. We're also refining some of our end-of-year estimates, which will affect numbers going forward. So the numbers that you see today are the best we have as of when this report was concluded last week, but we will have other numbers as we conclude our budget process in the hopes that we get an adopted budget by the City Council on June the 20th. And then finally, our department heads are here to answer any questions except for our maintenance supervisor. He is on vacation and unable to attend, but we'll do our best to answer questions for his budgets. So with that, I'd be happy to turn that back over to you, Mayor Juan, and then you can hand it off to the rest of our staff. Angeline?
I believe, Angeline,
Yes.
if you would like to lead us, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Juan and Councilmember Triviano. Okay, so this is the budget that we have put together with our finance consultant, Nitish Sharma. So we're going to be actually, we did not prepare the display on this one. So most of the informations are actually included in the staff reports and attachments. So we felt that there was really no additional the slides to be presented. So I'm gonna be there. So we're gonna share the presentations between the Nitish and myself on this one. So I'm gonna actually just kick off and give you a brief overview of what we have proposing for the next year's proposed budgets on this one. So one thing I wanted to bring your attention is that this is not reflecting any of the goal settings, which has not been really finalized, and we're expecting to complete it sometime in May. So that may actually get reflected in changes in possibly on a May 22nd, the second follow-up meetings to this one. So this is keep that in mind. This is not really reflecting any of the goal setting that was set by the council member at this point. So.
And that, when you say goal setting, that means only actions that would come out of the goal setting?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And for just a brief overview of the general funds, I just wanted to give you is we have as our city managers has mentioned, we have a surplus of closing this year of the $355,000. But those of the savings, the surplus we're seeing is the majority of are coming from the savings from the staff vacancies and some of those the salary and benefits on that one. And then in offsetting of that one is also we did have a little bit of the deficit on the expense operating side of it. So the most of these the surplus we're seeing it on this the projected surplus at the end of this year is coming from the salary savings and benefit savings from the vacancies that we had this year's. So
Can we dig into that just for one sec? So I think the last time we met regarding the vacancies was in the March timeframe, give or take.
Yes.
And at that time, I think we reflected about 81,000 in additional revenue that was anticipated. But then when we added up on the savings side, it was net around 80-ish thousand as well. That was a combination of salary offset by activities. So at that time, the projection would have been about $160,000 surplus all in, and now we're at about 360.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, do we have other insight into the additional 200 in surplus from FY23?
The last time, what we presented in the, back in March is actually a lot of the outsource of the contracting service, which is the part of the GovInvest. The fees were actually part of reflected on the savings of the Department 2 admin and finance. So this is strictly looking at when you look at the amount of budget for the last year. This year's the budget salary that was allocated and compared to what we actually spent on just strictly on the salary outside of considerations of any of the outside the contracting fees. So the purpose of the last time that we actually did a salary saving computation was really we're anticipating all those, the cost offsetting costs, which is GovInvest is one of them, and then there's also the additional, the contracting firms that was actually providing the services. Those were actually kind of included in there to give you the good ideas of those vacancy, how it's been used. And one other example was the Larry's is taking on a lot of the responsibility that used to be the formal assistant to city manager. So that was kind of shifted. That's not exactly kind of reflected on the January salary saving at that point. So, but this is really kind of looking at the big pictures and looking at the true cost of saving just the salary allocated for the budget and in current the salary spent on. So that's where I'm seeing a lot of savings on that one.
And if
Isn't that a net, the things that you mentioned is a net unfavorable, but here we're showing from March to now it's favorable by 200? So
Yes.
I'd like to understand specifically what is driving favorability from our original, or not original, but our prior estimate and our current. It's fine if it's in large numbers, that's okay. I'm just like, I want to get a flavor of what actually moved.
Okay, so it wasn't the back end, what we're seeing it in is the surplus amount is not exactly apple to apple comparisons on the back end, how we projected the potential salary savings, because a lot of salary savings what you're seeing it into strictly what was the allocated under the budget of this year, and then what we have truly spent it under the budgets. However, for the GovInvest and Larry's, the contract service is not exactly coming from the budgeted salary allocations. So that's where the difference is coming in.
Okay.
And Jillian, if I may, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for the question. And Nitish Sharma, finance consultant. And I spent a little bit extra time on detail, and Jillian was kind of helping out with putting the report together. So a couple of things that's happening right now that is part of the 23 increase is the distribution from the redevelopment property tax trust fund. It's going to be a little bit higher than what we anticipated. Another thing is the other in lieu tax. We actually, in the previous estimate, $174,000 was the budget, but so far we have received, as of 3/30, the date was $181,482. So that's a little bit of a change in there. And then also, we did a reconciliation for pandemic for the ARPA funds, and then transfer of $70,000 was put into from Fund 111 to general fund as part of the council authorization of the ARPA expenditures. So there's been some true up and stuff been going on as well too, which has been already been part of the analysis, but really looking at the actuals, we're really seeing that those are. And this time we also part of the. I would like to say that we, since the last meeting, we actually did a updated of the position budgeting. And we actually looked at all the positions that the city has authorized FTEs I think now we are looking at more like what is it really cost for that position, and if we don't have that position filled, here's the real savings. Last time was more like taking salaries and estimating some benefits, but this time we actually did a whole census data file, so we have a lot more information. So I know it doesn't make up for all the $200,000, but those are the type of stuff that we looked at. The franchise fees, we looked at other revenues that have slightly increased, and part of the update, which is a spreadsheet right here that I'm looking at, is very detailed, but definitely we try to be more realistic about what the changes were.
Okay.
Just the add-on, the clarifications, it will actually address it in the a little bit down on this, the staff reports, that what is the revenue increase that Natisha is mentioning as well too. So that's also kind of, it comes together on all of those, how the 350,000, 55,000 of surpluses came together. So that's part of this, the salary saving, as well as what the Natisha has just mentioned on the potential increase in the revenue as well too.
Yeah, last week, we got a report from the county auditor controller, basically an update on the 23 revenues, the actuals that have been now, the distribution, and the numbers have been revised to reflect based on the county's updated information, based on property growth, sales, and other things. So we actually updated the numbers for that. But definitely, I think what we can do in the May presentation, for example, we can just highlight some of the material changes, not like every dollar, but some of the material changes that happen between different presentations. So it's more transparent and a little bit more accountable.
Yeah, I would say on the initial or the prior presentation, there were 4 revenue categories. That was pretty straightforward to follow. There was staff savings of 80-ish. Yeah. But if you're saying, what I'm hearing is there's probably one more revenue source to include in that, as well as the 70,000 you're talking about, that was the vehicle. So I'm assuming that it was not, we had authorized the transfer, but it wasn't, it was not accounted for in terms of calculating the savings. And so that adds to it. So if you're talking about 200 less the 70, less another 10, you said on the second item.
Other in lieu tax.
Other in lieu, and then whatever RDA was. I mean, maybe you get there. So that, like having that walk where you kind of have the major categories would be.
Absolutely.
Would be useful.
Absolutely. Good to know.
Absolutely. Okay. So without any further ado, I think it's probably a good time to dive into the details of the actual, the revenue increase and the savings and future forecast. And at this time, I'm going to have the Mr. Sharma actually take over the details on the going through some of these staff reports.
Thank you, our finance director, and our city manager. Thank you as well. Before I dive into the report, I do want to recognize our department head team and our team, city manager and the finance director for putting together or helping put together this comprehensive report. This budget report is very extensive, and it is describing some of the major funds, or funds at least that we know have some challenges. However, the attachment included in this report is basically the net position, or I'd say the net value for each fund, or what is the what's in the savings account in each of the funds. So we did that analysis as well. And we also did, as part of this report, is a 5-year projections. As you could see, it was attached. That was something that the council has asked for. We did the projection at the detail line level, and then we actually roll it up. So what you see in here more is a roll-up version, but we definitely went back and will continue to adjust that. And I'll talk about some of those assumptions in my forecast model as well. So just looking at the general fund, as Angeline mentioned, structural deficit is being projected for 24-25. And this is, when I say structural deficit, this is, we did not want to do the council's job. We basically put together the revenues, the estimates, the expenditure estimates, and some of the costs that are increasing based on what the departments put together.
You said, sorry, you said 25. Did you mean 24?
24, I mean, sorry, yeah.
What, if you're referring to the agenda at all, it'd be helpful for us to, if we could follow along, if you have a page number or if you're just
yes.
going off
So,
of another.
Just page 2 of 12, let me just look at that.
Okay.
So you'll see that we have a structural deficit projected for 110,000, and in table A is basically you're starting off with the projected surplus, which we talked about, and then operating revenues of 5.5 million and operating expenses of 5.6 million. The operating revenues are I would say the majority of the operating revenues are property taxes. That's one category. Franchise fees is another category. Vehicle license fee, which is a big part of that, is the third category. And then other revenues. But also we wanted to highlight the redevelopment property tax transfer account, which is a trust fund. And as you're aware that our obligations on redevelopment agency, as we keep paying off those obligations, general fund keeps getting additional revenue. That was part of the assembly bill that the properties get paid off, obligations get satisfied by Department of Finance, and the county remits the revenues back to the taxing entities in the pro rata share. So still on page 2, looking at the supplemental considerations, what we did is at the bottom of table A, we just basically put together some of the personnel cost requests, which I will be covering a little bit later, but just high level is that these are some of the positions department were requesting. 4 of them are new FTEs. 1 of them is a reclass. And it's important to note that we, as mentioned, we wanted to give this opportunity to council to for that direction to either include this or not include this as part of the packet to the full council for consideration. Definitely, if it's included, it's in here. If it's not included, still show up so the council can see the direction, and then also councils can see the impacts. And then you'll have about 4 of the funds that should be self-funding based on the assessment or based on the revenue source. But with the current expenditure plan, as our city manager mentioned, they are in deficit spending, and naturally some of those deficits fall into general fund. We're not asking the council to or this committee to any decision on that, but we wanted to illustrate that if general fund picks up those deficit, this is the total. And then I'm on page 3 now, and with everything as requested and all the deficit, if it's general fund cost, you're looking at about $1.3 million in the net general fund deficit. So moving on to table 1, which is.
Can I? If I were to add something on those, the additional positions that we have, going to be illustrating later, down at the presentation is going to be all the positions was recommended through the organization assessment. So I just wanted to let you know that those positions were recommended, and we kind of developed the cost to actually fill those positions if we get it approved by the council members.
Sure. So I would just say, in the interest of time, you can assume that we've read all the materials.
Okay, yeah.
You don't have to read it. We know
Many
exactly.
times.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because when you said refer to the staff report, I'm not used to that.
Yeah. So
But
just
let me
assume, I would just assume that the materials are read, and then you
Absolutely.
could call out anything that you'd like to highlight.
Absolutely. So I
better.
do want to highlight on page 5 of the increase in the general fund operating expenditures, and you'll see that salaries and benefit increases, operating expenditure increases 612,000. I do want to highlight that personnel cost makes up a majority of that, and when we did the position budgeting, we also took into account step increases that employees may be entitled to if they are not at max step. And then also changes related to CalPERS. As you may be aware, we presented to you, CalPERS had an earnings of 21% a year ago. This year they had a negative 6.1% return, which the true return would be negative, more like 6.8% after taking into account the private equity loss that they have not really factored into. And then if you do the change, it's about 29% change from the year of substantial revenue increase to the decrease. One good thing CalPERS did do is that they created this amortization of losses and gains over 20-year period. So for City of Clayton, as we are part of the a cost sharing plan, or because of the number of employees we have, our impact is there. but not as probably to some other agencies, but definitely it is being included in here. And this is based on CalPERS data that was based on 2021 payroll, actual payroll, and the growth that they are projecting in terms of, the inflationary adjustments that they pay to retirees. So this is a combination of stuff. Another item to be noted, the CalPERS, when they put the cost together, they also look at the life expectancy, and that has also been higher than what they normally have, so that also causes some of that. The proposed budget also includes benefit insurance cost. I do want to highlight the medical cost has really increased for the city. I believe if you look at the budget in different funds, it's about 10% increase in that happened itself. So medical cost increase has gone up. And the way the medical cost works is that either your Bay Area region or you are sort of the Sacramento region, and we are sort of in the between, but we get hit with the cost in the Bay Area region. So, but I just wanted to, it's increasing everywhere, but just wanted to highlight that. On page 6 or 12, operations and maintenance expense.
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Sure.
So here, we're reflecting approximately $472,000 increase on salaries and benefits. And I think you have 1, 2, 3 bullets that describe it. But what I would expect to see here is a order or level of magnitude for each of the items that you're calling out that foot to the 472. You could have a sundry items that is the catch-all, but like if you're going to identify major components, like this says, for example, salaries, wages, but it doesn't tell me how much of the 472 the salaries, wages represents. So I'd like to know what that is. The benefit, we're saying it's a 10% or 9% increase, but there needs to be a dollar amount associated with it so that we could see how it aligns with the 472. And the same thing with the pension. I'd like to be able to call out what are the components of the 472? Because it's unclear from the document, and I don't think there's any way to actually tell in any of the materials, right?
No, I think you're absolutely right, but we do have that data that makes up, and we'll be happy to, and that's a good note for future too, so each of the items highlighted. I think your message in the very first one was that the change, that's what you wanted to follow through for the rest of the things.
For any item where there's like a change that we're trying to identify, it's always good to start with that summary that is in the table, which I think is great, and then underneath it, how it builds up so that the reader can follow along.
Absolutely. I would agree with that, and we'll make that change. I will say then, moving on to, as I was going to continue that operations and maintenance expense, we highlighted in the dollars changes, but definitely not what makes up 140,000. But I think this is probably close if you add some of these up. 50, 70,000, but yeah, it's getting close to 140, but we'll definitely make those adjustments in the next report.
Yeah, I came to 90 in my head, so.
Oh, look at that. So we are almost 65% there. So looking at the supplemental budget considerations, we did, in this one, probably read your mind, and then we did identify 481,000, the positions that were subject to the organizational assessment that was conducted with the council, and the positions are listed here. The 4 FTEs, I'm just going to talk about for anybody watching here, is the positions are accountant position, and then the public works manager position, senior maintenance worker, and then associate planner. And there's one reclass from a sergeant to lieutenant, so that makes up the $481,000 in the positions. We also a couple other things, general fund transfer from special funds, which I talked about, and that is about $741,000, and respectively in the funds that are identified are the geological hazard abatement fund, the GHAD fund, and then also we have the landscape maintenance district fund that you're aware of, and then the stormwater fund and the street lighting fund. It's important to note that City Council did transfer some funds from the ARPA funds as part of the budget to gap finance some of the street lighting costs previously, but we did not take the same position because we wanted that direction from council or from community members.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
For the 4 positions that were listed, I just want to be really clear, that was a recommendation from the one
Yeah.
the one consultant.
Yeah,
right?
MRG group,
And-
they basically recommended
And
this.
I think it's great that we have it here to list, that we've kind of like done a little bit of legwork to determine what the cost could be. But I don't want to mislead and say that that represents an actual deficit. I think
Exactly. That's why we added, the operating deficit is $110,000 is on page 2. If we say that all the things that the consultant said we do, that will add another $481,000 to the deficit. And definitely with Clayton's budget of $5.6 million, this would be a huge thing if that goes through. But right now, it's not part of the budget. It was a study done saying that if best case scenario, if you're a similar size agency with similar size portfolio and functional areas, these are the additional positions that our similar agencies have in order to deliver the services.
Okay.
And Nitish, those were also salaries, not including benefits, is that correct? Those are just
This is salary and
just
benefits.
salary, thank you.
And then, so just to clarify, so that represents only those positions that were recommended by the consultant. There does still continue to be one FTE that we have not yet hired as of now. And so I imagine, is that built into the budget, into the 110?
The accountant position?
No,
You mean the
Assistant to the city
Yes,
manager.
it is
Yes, that
built
is part of
into
the-
Okay, so that is
yes.
baked in already?
Yes.
Okay, so potentially, depending on the timing of the hire, you would enjoy both the savings and the increased workload that's associated with not filling the position?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Okay,
But if I might add, some of the work that position was doing has been reassigned to consultants.
Yes.
So I would expect it to be kind of a wash,
yeah.
basically.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, so
If I wanted to add one more thing before you
I
move on to the next item. So one other, the things that was not included in the supplemental consideration is the potential COLA increase for our miscellaneous group is actually putting together the proposal, since the miscellaneous group's labor agreement is expected to expire on the June 30th of 2023. So they're actually working together to putting to renew the labor terms and agreements. And then one of the things that was brought to my attention was the potential COLA, which is the 1% of COLA is representing about $16,000 on an annual basis. So that is wanted just to give you a brief the introductions to the potential additional supplemental considerations to be.
How does that relate to the second bullet in the above section on page 5 of 12 that talks about the 472 in salaries and benefits? Second bullet says salaries, wages, that the budget includes increases to salaries, wages based on salary schedule and performance evaluations. Is that separate and apart from the COLA?
That is correct, yes. Those referring to the step increases for those who has not reached to the top steps. So currently, based on our current employee steps, they're about the 11 out of 27 employees has not reached their max steps.
Okay.
It also includes the POA's COLA increases that are already contractually built in.
yeah.
For the, okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
And then I just had one question
Sure.
about the personnel. So just so I'm clear again, that figure includes the new salary for the new city manager
Yes,
as well. It includes, we talked about the miscellaneous employees contract. Does it include the assistant to the city manager
Yes, it
position?
does.
Yes, okay. And it does include the senior accounting technician position? No, it does not, because that has
Senior-
never been filled.
there was only one-time limited term position, if you remember, as part of the budget. That was from the ARPA funds, and that would be a direction that can come, but definitely if it was one-time limited term, we did not include that, unless it's an authorized FTE approved by the council.
Got it.
Okay, thank you.
And as part of and just add on to Angeline, we do have a fully built labor module in place. So if we need to do costing analysis for any of these bargaining units, it's shovel ready to be done. So that's another item that we have done as part of the budget. We did a fully built labor costing module. All right, so just a couple of funds in the page 9 and page 10. We basically listed out the funds that are deficit spending, and then as I've said in my presentation, the deficit spending has been included as a proposal below the line. It's part of general fund. It doesn't need to happen, but definitely, and at this moment, we have not gone back to really say the direction will be from this committee or from council will be how to balance this fund and those opportunities. In order to balance a fund, either you need a new revenue source or you need to reduce expenditures, or you can look at other funds that are in the similar areas that can offset some of the costs and can also happen as well too. So those analysis will be done as part of the direction we received today and will be presented to you on May 24th. I believe this May 24th, don't count me on the date, but that next May meeting, so we can present to you, here's the funds that were challenging, here's the direction we received, and here's what we have done so far. Table 4, 11, or 12 page, we just wanted to, on page 12 or 12, just highlight the ARPA fund balance, 1.3 million, and you have seen this before, but we'll be happy to answer any question you may have.
And this updated ARPA funds on the page 12 is already reflecting the items that was previously approved, authorized by the council member on the last meeting.
Okay, thank you.
And we put together the 5-year forecast. You'll see that what we can do is the 355, 955, the category. And then we have the categories from the presentation we did in March. So we'll be basically putting the two side by side and looking at the differences, and we'll identify those differences for you as per your request. So if you see this, we have this table in attachment 1 broken into different sections. We actually talk about what general fund obligation is, and then general fund expenditures and the operating surplus deficit. And then we basically also included in here, what is your beginning fund balance estimated total, and then net surplus deficit. If the committee chooses to recommend everything and the council chooses to recommend, and if this becomes a adopted budget, this is the forecast that it looks like. The forecast has some assumptions built in here. We probably should have included those assumptions in the as attachment so you could see that. But one of those assumptions is property tax will increase. There's 2% increase that built in property taxes. That is the inflationary adjustment. That is Proposition 13, if you remember, and that is built in here. We as a city, we don't have a lot of new development, so we don't really get those compared to some other agencies, but definitely looking at 2%. In my last 18 years, only few times I've seen where there has been a negative inflation.
Yeah, that's not realistic. But did we bake in turnover in home sales?
We have, right now, it's 2% that's been built in.
Okay, so we baked in 0 turnover? Because 2% is the maximum assessment that could increase.
Assuming
right?
the county does 2% max for all Prop 13.
They always do 2%.
They have done.
I know, there was that one time in 2008 where the housing market crashed, but all other times in the last many, many years where I would think a 2% is assuming 0 turnover, and anytime you have a sale, it will likely increase the basis.
And we can go ahead and include that for the next meeting.
So I guess my question is, because we have the data on all home sales, right? So we know what
have
turned
the
over.
We have an estimate. It's called supplemental tax that we received.
And that was part of one of the 4 categories of revenue spend that went up, or revenue projections.
Yeah.
Sorry. So I guess my only question is, so we did not include that?
We did not include that. It changes so much, and we definitely can include a factor in here. And what we will do for transparency purposes between property taxes and sales tax, we'll add a line item so you know that this is our estimate, but it can vary. Properties I do see properties are still selling, but not at the rate maybe they were selling at one point, but they are flipping. And
Selling low inventory,
Yeah.
but yes.
Yeah.
And did we get some of that information from this, is it HDL Corin and Cone? That's the Consultant.
The secured property tax portion, but the information is available, as the mayor was mentioning, for some of the supplemental, like, changes that happens, we do have the data.
Okay.
And then,
Sorry, and the reason why I bring, because in our current projection, supplemental went up, I forget, what was the number? Was it 30,000, give or take?
something like that, yeah, let me just take a look.
I'd have to call up the other agenda.
Right.
So if we saw a 30% increase from estimate, and because I'm assuming in the prior year, we also estimate only 2%, then if sales are flat, then you would expect to see something similar?
24,000, no, it was, 22 actual was 50,000, and this year it's probably going to be around 30,000.
Okay.
And then 21 was 24,000, 20 was 31,000, and 19 was 34,000.
Okay. So if we have similar sales, you would expect to see some kind of
Yeah,
around in that ballpark.
yeah.
So-
And the only reason I call it out is because if our deficit that we're looking at is 110 and
Yeah.
you're talking between 20 and 30,000,
Yeah.
that's, significant to the
Yeah,
percentage.
for future years. This year, 23, 24, we did include in the budget $10,000.
Okay.
But I was going to say that the overall difference between property taxes and projected this year and next year shows it $95,000, which is 7-8% increase overall.
Yeah, the 23 growth rate was a little bit higher than anticipated, so the base increase, that's the 24. That
But I
was
think
the-
that includes the supplemental in that
It was
overall number.
secured and unsecured tax and unitary tax. Supplemental, yes, we definitely can then adjust that going forward.
Okay. Well, we should clarify just to make sure that
Yeah.
we know what's baked
Absolutely.
in.
Absolutely, we can take a look at that. And yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that, and if it's included, we'll make sure we'll address that with you.
Okay. Because remember, yeah, the 2% is just the assessed value. The actual dollar amount will be some other different percentage, so,
Mhm.
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, I was just looking up that, so the information from, but I can definitely look it up and then come back to you if I have it with me. I do have it. So basically, absolutely. So you look at the category, the 2% increase in here. There are 4 components of that property taxes. I'm thinking one of those components will be probably the supplemental tax, because what we did, we grouped property taxes together. We said the whole thing will increase 2%, and there's other taxes as part of that. Sales tax, this one is a difficult one to analyze. As you are aware, the sales tax are slowly increasing, but there's always not a lot of, we don't know what's going to happen with that, but definitely we are projecting a slight increase in sales tax, and right now our projection is about 1.5% increase in sales taxes at the current rate. And the big driver has been the property taxes that we received as part of the Redevelopment Property Tax Trust Fund. That's part of the attachment 1. That also is increasing, and our base has increased from 23-24. So we looked at our ROPS, which is the obligation schedule we put together. We bring it in front of council if those obligations get paid off, and we'll highlight those. And definitely we see those opportunities later in towards the 29, 30, or 31, 32 years, because there were some costs.
Well, one of them fell off last year, right?
And that's why to increase this year.
Is that baked in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And one of them was paid off last year, so that's one of the things we highlighted in the staff report in page, I would say, page 4, number 5. And we did include that in there. So we highlighted, that's why we highlighted that. I don't have any other things I wanted to share, but definitely want to open up and give you the opportunity to ask any questions, because the staff report is pretty comprehensive. There's tables and charts and everything in there. So I think it's the opportunity is, I want to turn it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to?
I think you go and I'll go. I have like 5 pages.
Okay. So I just wanted to clarify on a few things that whether they were or were not included, and then I have a couple comments here. But I'm going to use as a prop one of the pages here to talk first about the additional considerations page, I think it was, supplemental considerations. And I think Larry just stepped out of the room, so that's fine, but he'll catch up. For the GAD, we're projecting on this $265,000 deficit. I don't think that's the right number to use, actually. I have to go to the fund page.
It is 265.
265? Okay.
And I guess the question around that was, and maybe Larry can answer this, is that based on your projections of the scope of work from our last GAD meeting? I know that you're still working on that report, but is that your best estimate?
Yes.
What does that include?
And I could discuss it a little bit more in conjunction with my CIP discussion, but there was certain assumed expenditures. Obviously, the board will need to decide, and we are planning on bringing it back. But yes, it has increased expenditures over what's kind of currently being done. So depending on how many of those are sort of authorized or decided upon being used, it will vary the expenditures projected for fiscal year 24 and going and beyond. But generally, the fund will be it's in a deficit spending situation already, and there is the last bit of the Presley settlement fund that is helping supplement some of those overruns or projected overruns in fiscal year 24. But after that is exhausted, and assuming you continue to use the same expenditures, which obviously, like I said, it's still a decision to be made, then you're going to have a larger deficit going forward.
Okay.
But you are still going to get back to us at some point with kind of prioritizing what needs to be done now, what can wait.
Yeah, right now I believe we are planning on bringing it back, the item on May
18 or
18th.
16. Sorry.
Yeah, the second meeting in May, at the end of, after the council meeting, typical, we have the GAD meeting, and we will bring back some of the discussion items we had at the last GAD meeting, and then our plan is to have the board provide feedback as to what items, both from an operations standpoint and also any capital improvement projects.
Okay, thank you.
And so I guess, just a comment. So if that meeting's 5/16, we're going to bring the budget back probably after that, is my guess, right? So the approach that I think would be better for the GAD, especially in context of the information that you're going to bring back, is first, because we get 49,000-ish on a year in assessments. This year, the additional 49 from the Presley will probably cover some of the legal work that was done and probably some of the spend that was done on preparing and building the report. But beyond that, on an annual ongoing basis, I would recommend within the budget, we only reflect up to and include the amount of operating revenue that we get. And so that means that from a prioritization standpoint, the requirements of the reports that we need to do, plus I know that there's work for calling for the
Engineers report. Yes.
calling for the engineer's report for the assessment, and then actually levying the assessment and doing all that. That probably takes up some portion of the 49, probably a significant portion, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I briefly would state that the 49,000 next year and the 49,000 from the Presley's Fund is for fiscal year 24. This current fiscal year that ends in June, we do expect to be within the original budget for this fiscal year, because there was quite a bit of money set aside for the Ahwahnee sidewalk. There's still money that needs to be spent on mudslide cleanups in the various basins. Our expectation right now is that those will come in at the within the budget for 23. Is just shifted around as in terms of categories. But going into next year, I understand how we want to decide what is going to be considered part of the baseline expenditures, if you want to call it that. That is fine. That's the feedback we'd like to hear. And we can, but I would say in general, you have about 47 this year or 49 probably projected next year. The cost of just operating the district on just a paperwork basis for assessments is probably in the range of $20,000 to $25,000 because you have to hold the meetings, the tax roll, you have to have the consultant prepare the report, my time coming here. And so insurance, there are baseline things that regardless if you even fix anything or maintain anything will be a baseline cost. And I'm happy to go through that probably more in detail at the GAD meeting.
Yeah, and that's probably the approach I would take, and then any remainder goes to the order of priority for what needs to be done, and after that, I think it's up to the residents to determine how they want to cover, if any at all.
Fair enough.
And so that's how I would approach that, but thank
Okay.
you.
Sure.
So, and then the other, let's see here, sorry, I'm scrolling around a little bit. I should remember the page number. Okay, so then, additional, was it here? Yes. I'm talking about a supplemental cost that we were talking about. Shoot, I'm on the wrong page. So while I find that, I'll just ask a couple questions. The updates to the fee schedule, any updates that we have? I saw that in the back, so we'll talk about that at the later.
Yes.
Is that baked in to that 110 deficit?
Most likely, yes. Double check just to make sure. Other fees, reimbursement for the. Yes, it's built in here.
It is built in?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
built
when we talk about that, then did you just assume a constant run rate in terms of hours and billing?
What we did is based on the current activity, what we are doing at the moment, the fees that we are receiving, and we applied an escalated increase to that fees.
Okay, so that is baked in, got it. And then I saw that there was an notation for climate tech potential savings if that actually goes through, but that is not baked into
That's
the
not,
110?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Making sure of that. What about the results of investment activity? Is that baked in as well? I couldn't tell from the schedule. When I looked at the interest income line item on the summary, it showed like it was floating right in the 90 to 105,000 range, but that
So-
doesn't seem like the right number.
For general fund.
For general fund, okay,
Yeah.
so is that, yeah, I know, I assume that it gets
It's in here.
allocated throughout
Yeah.
all the funds, so that is
That is in here,
baked in?
yeah.
Okay,
And one thing I will want to make it fully transparent that we are working with our consultant, our city manager. We connected today to look at we're shifting we did a swap analysis on our investments. We also put some additional money from, if you remember, from our LAIF account, which is our general
I
pool
remember.
cash. So we are trying to work on that. We did not have data, so we did not include that. But as part of your May update, that's another adjustment that you'll see that how is that, because we're finally trying to invest. We just bought some securities recently as well, just a day or two ago.
so the excess cash is not baked in, but is the rollover and maturity of our current investment portfolio over
Yes,
time baked in?
yeah.
Like,
Yes.
did you blend those in over time?
I did blend those in over time. It was a laddered approach that we had.
Okay.
And Nitish, I'm sorry, when did you say that we're going to see our first quarterly report this year? Will we,
Next meeting,
next meeting,
Yes.
next budget and audit meeting?
yes.
Okay.
The investment report, we also will be presenting the investment report.
Okay, and I just want to go back to climate tech just for a second. So the projected operating expenditure savings, that 5-year forecast, is that part of our 5-year forecast of our, what our savings are going to be over the term of the contract?
So the numbers that were projected were based upon the 1% CEC loan. being successful in getting that at the $2 million project. So that's the
Including
base.
the repayment of the loan, is that in here?
Yeah, so,
Oh, it
so
is
it's
in
the
here?
net, so the
didn't see it
net, I
itemized.
think year one is 18,000, if I recall correctly, and then it
Okay.
goes up from there. So that's each year would be the net general fund savings.
Okay, and then benefits to offset net operating costs, say for gas, electric, water usage, is that, we're not including that?
No,
Right.
because
So
we-
that's a benefit?
Correct,
that's-
it's a benefit.
Okay.
Savings on water, if there's less water leakage because of the valves that are put in, things like that, we did not project what
Okay,
that savings
because
would
we
be.
don't know exactly what that's going to be,
Correct.
just an estimate. Okay, thanks. That's it for me on climate tech.
And then we already talked about the timing of hiring. We didn't.
We did.
We did or did not?
The assistant to the city manager?
That's in there, but we did
Yeah.
not like have a vacancy factor because,
We don't know if.
I mean, it's May 1st.
Yeah.
You could theoretically hire it by July 1st,
Yeah, so that's.
but maybe not.
Yeah, but when we put together budgets like that, that would be one of those items that we probably will say that the council can direct that, or committee can direct that, hire this position by August, let's just say, then we'll bake in those savings, but unless we have that specific direction, we count as that position being filled.
Okay, got it. And then you already mentioned that the RDA wind down, that's included
Yes.
as well, that's baked in?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I know that we are currently engaged with negotiations with Republic Service contract negotiation. I think there's the potential that that may yield a benefit based on the results of that negotiation, but that's not baked in.
That's not baked. That's usually those negotiations happen in confidential unless it's a contract is reached, and then it becomes so.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so I guess I'm trying to find, there's a nice page that highlighted the areas.
The supplemental.
It was the funds. So there was a few funds. that were
Page
just-
5 of the staff report.
Oh, no, here it is. Yeah, it's number 5 on page 8 of 12. That's the one. This one that you identified. So we already talked about the GAD, street lighting, and landscape, and stormwater. So for street lighting, and I'm going to use,
I had a question on the deficit, too, that is listed for street lighting. Unless I'm incorrect, some pages said 61,903 and others said 55,000. Was I reading that correctly?
Yeah, I believe the 61,903 is the updated number, so the 55 may have been, that was the
Was the
original
old
number we started with.
Okay, so it's 61,903.
Correct.
And Nitish, I think you may have just said this, that in the past year, or maybe the year before, we have used some ARPA funds to supplement that.
One time you did, yes, as part of
Okay.
your
Last
original
year.
ARPA.
Last year.
55,000 or something, I believe.
no, last year we transferred 20 for ARPA. It's this
Yeah.
one right here.
Oh, yeah, it's in here. 20,403. It's on page 11 of 12 of the staff report.
And so, I was having a discussion earlier about the flexibility of utilizing gas tax. And when we look at this CIP schedule, it looks like, thank you, Larry, for printing out this giant page. It looks like gas tax revenue is being used for our paving program, and that is the first round is probably in FY '26, with a little bit of design work in FY '25, and then further work in FY '27. So, I think my understanding is that there is flexibility in utilizing gas tax funds to cover street lighting deficits. Is that accurate?
That's what we have done in the cities that we are. There's some street lighting costs that can be part of are you referring to SB1 money? Or gas tax, just regular gas tax? It can be used. I've seen
Whatever's
cities.
listed in this column right here.
Yeah.
Right.
gas tax revenue,
Okay.
the original gas tax.
Okay.
It's, yeah.
And so I think, we probably want to talk about the timing of some of the work in that it may be necessary to defer or delay some of the larger expenditures for these funds that have flexibility in spending so that we can cover some of these shortfalls. But when we talk about the LMD, which,
And I just wanted to ask another question on paving. Dana Hills, that Mount Air Parkway is 2024, correct? Yeah. So there is something for
so that's,
2024.
yeah, I think that's the one that's going to pull from, wrong one. That's the one that's going to pull from the RMRA funds, is that right?
RMRA, is that correct, Larry?
This return
Funds.
money,
That's the-
RMRA plus a little bit of Fund 230 and the Fund 303.
The paving project, though, we anticipate Mount Air Parkway and several other streets, has actually got multiple funds. There's $308,000 of OBAG 2 money. That's a federal fund grant. And then essentially you have local match, but the cost of the overall project is bigger than that particular grant. So the supplementary funds will be RMRA, and then funds that are considered in the 303 fund, which is the capital improvement fund, which is money that's been transferred from gas tax or other sources to fund a capital project. So there's money still parked in there that needs to be utilized first.
And I just have a question. How did we identify that Mount Air Parkway was?
So that particular set of streets, and I can't recall all of the streets in the 24 paving, is part of a set of streets that was originally included in a bid set from 2020. And those streets included the streets that were paved last summer in 2022, but were not, there was not enough money left, and they were considered alternate streets. So they bid on them, but the city did not have enough money to fund those particular streets, so they were deferred. We coordinated with city staff last year and asked, how would you like to proceed with the remainder of these streets, the next set of streets, and was to utilize the remainder of those bid alternates. Come, the next paving program, I believe it would be prudent for me to come to the council, develop a street selection process and come up with a recommendation for the next set of streets. But this is sort of closing out what was already identified and planned for on a previous project that goes back now several years.
I love that idea of.
Sure.
Thank you.
And then my last-ish question, and I'm going to use this not specifically to talk about the LMD, but just use the LMD as an example. Although I do have questions about the LMD.
Yes.
The document reflects a $383,000 projected deficit for '24, and of that amount, we see about just under 1.3 in revenue and 2 million-ish in expense, but I don't have any way to see any detail around the spend. I see 3 line items: salary benefits of about 400, OpEx of about 1.57, and transfers out of like 43,000. So my question is, it would be, that's not a question, it's more of a statement. It would be really helpful to see the line item, the account level detail that makes up this type of
1.5.
spend. And I would say that for all the funds as well, because it's difficult to kind of assess where the spend is occurring from an account basis without seeing that detail. But I would say, I believe from the report, that embedded within the 1.57 is probably the Cardinette Trail repair.
The 500,000, yeah.
Is that accurate?
I think so.
I'm
And I
double
think
checking.
it's referenced somewhere.
Yes, that's accurate.
Okay. And so, I before we bring it forward to say that, yes, we're adopting a budget that reflects this giant deficit. I think we have to make decisions around what we're actually going to spend, because while I think that is incredibly important to do, I think there's probably competing priorities. And the LMD covers a fairly large area within the city, and we would want to make sure that we are prioritizing the spend within the district such that it meets the needs of the residents rather than just that one particular thing. That one thing is really big, but maybe there could be potential alternate funding sources rather than like exhaust the entire LMD in lieu of the trail repair.
And also ongoing maintenance.
Other
and repair.
maintenance.
Yeah, right, year round.
Yes.
If I ask the clarification on that, one is the looking at the details that for the, you wanted to see the detail line items, the account totals for the 2024, they're what we projected? Okay.
Yeah, all for 24. I mean, 23 is almost done.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have all the details, so which is good. What you're asking is we have it by line item, like basically weed abatement services went up
Yes.
by, I had the number with me just now, by $23,000, for example. That's part of that. $255,000 was a new trail fixture repair replacement. I believe that's the project you've been mentioning. And then $89,000 was increase in program cost to manage this. I believe that was because we transferred some of the services from to this. That was program increase.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. I think that is the questions I have for now. Thank
Okay.
you.
So one other question that I had, and kind of staying on that income statement,
Let me go back.
because I did have that in my notes. Do you, are there any major collections outstanding? That income statement, I think.
Is it this one?
No, the income statement you were just on.
Oh,
It's like at the very end.
the
For
triangle
the
numbers.
landscaping
Yeah. And I'm
maintenance
sorry, I don't
district,
know what- Excuse me?
for the LMD fund.
No, in general. It's that page that you were just on, it's almost at the very end of, it had the income statement. Well, here's my question, and again, in my words, right? In our, it'd be helpful if we could, and again, I'm sorry, I forgot my
It's all right.
laptop.
It's okay, I can
You
scroll.
had that statement up.
Yeah.
It was about, are we up to date on collecting all outstanding money due to the city that
This-
we have invoiced?
Yeah.
Is there anything major, maybe
Yeah.
it's a better way, that we're still waiting for that
So-
could tip the scale in any way?
So there's two sides of the accounting on that. One is when we actually bill, we record it as revenue, and then it becomes a receivable, right? So what you're asking, if I'm stating it correctly, are there receivables out there that is receivables and the status on that? As far as I could tell, one of the things that we are working on actively is the business license. Renew. We have active business license that some of our businesses are not paying, so we are really working on that item just to making sure. But that would be a cash flow item, because otherwise, if you don't collect it, you write off your revenue that you already recorded. So to answer your question, as far as budgetary impact, probably not for now, but if we don't collect on those, there's going to be a balance sheet reduction, and our hope is that we're going to be collecting on all of those licenses and things.
And I guess I was thinking too of like grant funding. Are we up to date on?
There are some timing differences, because
Okay.
as you're aware, when we submit a grant reimbursement or even any funds that comes from state or county, there is always a 3-month delay or 6-month delay. So
Right.
some of these grants that we do receive, it's just the timing again, is just
Okay.
when you receive it. But definitely that is on top of the radar.
And the timing is the same every year, so it's
Yeah.
not going to make,
No.
okay, it's not going to tip the scale
No.
one way or the other. Okay, thanks.
The one thing that I'd like to add on to that one is the additional revenues. We are actively kind of collecting the city's property damage, which is, we have received about 11,000 on one of the invoices that we have generated within this week. So we have like about 11 outstanding invoice that were about issues. So that's going to create a lot additional revenue as well too. And then the one thing that they add on to the Natasha has mentioned is on the business license. I learned that we have a lot of delinquent account that with the outstanding balance that we have been actively seeking the collections of those as well. And then in addition to that one, we do have a business license also kind of misallocated that we're not fully invoicing the up-to-date information. So those are some of the things that we are actively seeking to make the correction, and hopefully they collect the outstanding delinquent accounts as well.
And I just want to add, some of these things will be reimbursing ourselves because we did do the initial capital outlay when the storm damage happened. So we actually, some of these are like unbudgeted expenses because the storm came up on us, so we use existing funds, but this will be basically coming to us to reimburse ourselves. So I just don't want us to, not to count into the future as a revenue source, but more like reimbursing ourselves on that.
Okay, thank you, though. And also, we said that FEMA, I know, Larry, you're actively pursuing reimbursement through FEMA, but not to count on it.
Larry, would you like to give a little update on what you're working on with FEMA, please?
So it's a good timing. I just met with FEMA staff last week in what's called their first mandatory exploratory call. It's the first step. It doesn't get into the details of the projects, but after we've submitted our paperwork, they go through very broad brush the program and the steps that are involved. It was about a 40-minute call. Our next meeting is in person at the City Hall office next Monday. They'll go in more detail as to the different projects identified. Currently, what I have submitted in terms of reimbursement requests is roughly $680,000, $690,000, of which $500,000 is the Cardonet Trail. $25,000 is various downed trees throughout the city, and the remainder of that amount, whatever that difference is, 100 and something thousand, is related to mudslide removals, such as the two in the GAD district. And then there is also a slide, not along the Cardonet Trail, but further down or upstream in the watershed on Donner Creek Trail between Weatherly and Regency. That's more of a landslide than an erosion. So all of those are being processed, and then we will find out if we are going to be eligible for reimbursement. Generally, the reimbursement is still at a ratio of I think 80%, and then the state also provides, if we're also eligible through the state, another 75% of the 20%. So it gets down to a pretty reasonable local match if they are eligible. But it is a very drawn-out process. We're not in a emergency repair situation anymore. All these situations didn't need to be like boots on the ground today. This is going to have to go through the typical process. Anything related near the creek obviously needs permits through regulatory agencies, so that ends up adding time. So to also, with this opportunity, I would say the $500,000 number that was set aside for Cardonet Trail is a very just baseline or pie in the sky kind of number at this point. I don't know what that number is. We wanted to be, frankly, it's probably in our interest to overestimate it at this point in terms of the reimbursement process, but I don't know what the permit requirements are and the timing and what those are going to affect how we construct the project, if we do. But in order to, like as mentioned earlier, these grants are given out usually in a reimbursement situation. So the trees that have already been picked up and down, 2 months ago, those clearly have invoices, those can be reimbursed. But any projects that we do, such as the creek, need to be completed first, and then you're usually requesting reimbursement within 3 months is usually typical turnaround, unless there is a specific hang-up on a particular issue. But it does require the city to provide a lot of documentation beyond just the project itself. It has to show the city's policies or insurance policies, why it's not covered by the city's insurance, those other types of things as well.
Okay. And the other question I wanted to ask you about that specific part of the trail, it's something that I walk twice a day. Have we ever considered, because the trail is a series of bridges over creeks, have we ever considered an alternative rather than shoring up that wall and building it up? Is a bridge even a possibility, and could that possibly come out of state or federal infrastructure funds? I mean, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, yeah.
We have not got to that level. Yes, I would say when we get to it, we bring an engineer on to do a scoping session and working with regulatory agencies, I would look at that situation of, would it be more beneficial to put, say, a different alternative, whatever you want to call it, a bridge. Now, FEMA typically will replace it in kind. But they are getting more evolved about these situations, and if they could see that there is a different fix, and without getting too much into details, they can, as long as it's justified, and frankly the cost doesn't become a betterment or a significant betterment, then I think FEMA will consider those situations. I think it's going to be somewhat complicated with this trail because the proximity of the creek. So it's not so much the trail. I mean, I think everyone in town cares about the trail because that's what they walk along. But the regulatory agencies are very clear on what you put inside the top of bank is their jurisdiction. So putting in, for example, there's existing gabion baskets. Those are the wire baskets with the rocks in them. As you can see, the erosion sort of starts right after those were placed. Putting those in, again, is one of probably the second lowest acceptable method next to a concrete wall. So that's one example of you have to look at various things, but the reimbursement has a little flexibility.
Okay. I was just thinking something more lasting so that we're not revisiting this in years to come. Oop.
FEMA is, they want that too. They don't want to have to keep coming back to the same spot.
Okay.
Are we required to put that estimated spend in the budget to be eligible for this reimbursement? Because I imagine we apply for it and we'll know if we've been awarded it prior to any spend happening. Is that accurate, or I'm not sure how it works, so.
I don't know specifically if they'll want us to see it budgeted in. I think that's a question we can ask, or to a certain degree, as we go through the steps, we can figure out. But there is going to be a period of time where the city will have to front the money.
Front it, yeah, and that's fine, as long as if they grant it per our project plan, then I think they're good for it. It's just a timing question. But it's almost the case that absent some funding source, some of this project work becomes less realistic, I would say, to do. So that is a question I would want to know, like, for certainty. Like, if we need to have it in there to receive this grant or reimbursement, then fine, put it in. But if we don't, then I wouldn't. So that's the only guidance I could give.
Understood. I can explore the option or sort of the requirements when we meet with staff. It might not be a simple answer as to this meeting. Usually you deal with multiple members of FEMA and and some of the processing of the actual reimbursements are done, you know, in a state office, those type of things. So it may not be a simple answer, but I see the concern, and, you know, we can try to make sure that we address it the best way Clayton needs to address it.
Okay. And so I guess I know that we will run out of time here shortly. So I just want to say, as we present, I'd like to have, it would be better if we had more expanded detail as we talked about. But in addition to the area of investments and the fees, I'd like to explore more how they're baked in and to what degree. So we can talk about that at the next go round. But it would be helpful if we could see that, because you cannot discern that from the materials.
Yeah, so if I may, Mayor Wan, would a line item detail will be helpful for you?
I think in a by fund, by account for
Yeah.
all funds
Yeah,
would be useful. I think like here, I tried to find like the administrative fund, like where we sit, and it's not here. So that, you know, stuff like that. Like I'd like to see a complete, you know, for completeness, the by
Absolutely.
fund, by account. And then specifically, if we want to call out certain schedules, because I think those are on here as well. Schedules, the ones that are in here, I think are great. But then, you know, how we talked about building up to those, and then also perhaps a schedule that illustrates how the fees and the investments are baked in. Like, I think that would be useful to see so that we can assess it.
absolutely. I think that is a very fair request, because the first thing your request, we have all the data. I'd rather just have somebody else look at it too.
And I really like Excel.
Oh, me too, so.
Okay, that was the extent of my
Yeah.
comments and questions.
Okay,
Did you have
thank
anything?
you.
Nope.
I think we have to take public comment, though. So I'll take public comment, or we will take public comment, if anyone has anything they'd like to share on this one item. Janet, do we have anyone?
Mayor Wan, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Okay, I'll close public comment. And I think you guys have enough feedback for now, and then we could talk further in between as well. So,
Can I ask one quick question?
public comment on this? Yes.
Yeah, it's just a quick question.
I will.
Talking about the improvements in the storm damage, and I'm just wondering if that trail from Marsh Creek up over the hill down to Oak Street has been considered and looked at, because there's a lot of erosion that's come through there.
Marsh Creek
And
to Oak
if it doesn't get fixed, then the next rain will make it bigger.
I'm trying to remember specifically which trail this is. Is this the one that goes up to the school? No.
No, I walk it all the time. And right here downtown, there's a cross street, and then you go up the trail and over the hill, and it's gravel.
Up to
And-
the elementary school?
No, it
No.
goes up over the hill and down to Oak Street. And it puts you there at the entrance to, I can't think of the name of it, but that's how I go over the hill and then up Oak Street to the top.
I'm sorry, I'm at a loss. I don't know what trail that is.
Okay.
Would you like to show me on the map? This is Oak Street.
Yeah, so it comes.
It's not a touchscreen, though.
Yeah, okay, it's,
So the school's over here, downtown's over here.
okay, so it comes up from Marsh Creek
Okay.
and goes up over the hill to Oak Street.
Is it on
So-
that side of the library here? No, it's over here.
No, it's up over here. Well.
Okay.
Marsh Creek over to Oak Street.
Okay. I think maybe we'll have to, if you could help me out a little bit, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
let me
yeah.
know, and then that'll help out on guidance.
Probably not. It hasn't been considered.
So, yeah, I'm not aware of which one it is, and I think we would need a little bit more
Okay,
direction on it.
okay,
Okay.
fair enough.
Okay, so we don't have any more comments on this item. Okay, and you guys have enough direction. We're good there. All right, so next is item B, and I believe this is the CIP report. again, thank you for the very large
Yes,
printout.
we appreciate that.
Good afternoon. I'll try to be judicious with my time. I think we've discussed several items, but for those in the audience, the attachments in the packet needed to be corrected. So I'll be working off worksheets that look like this. They're spreadsheets. And as part of the packet, maybe I'll start with this. The spreadsheets are meant to be working documents. I find this is our first discussion about the CIP, and it's good because a lot of things move around and we get a lot of feedback. Using a spreadsheet is a little bit more effective because you can kind of see everything together, and hopefully we'll get additional feedback this afternoon. And then what we plan on doing is putting it together into a program that organizes the information, and you'll see that in exhibits or attachments 2 and 3. Just these are examples that will come back in the first, or I guess the draft CIP, the actual document, will have the first sheet that says ADA transition is a project sheet. So it'll give you a description of what the project is, and then a capital outlay similar to this spreadsheet, but for that specific project. So you get a good understanding of the expenditures, from a design, planning standpoint, construction management or inspection, and then construction itself or the contract, and then the various funding sources. But those also go along with what's attachment 3, which is labeled sources and uses of funds. That's Fund 201 as an example. This will give you a balance relative to that funding source. A lot of capital improvement projects are related to restricted funds, and then on occasion you'll get supplementary general fund or other funds. But the purpose is to keep track of those dollars for each of the individual funds, because you can use gas tax related to roadways, generally speaking. Streetlights is one example, but roadway pavement. A lot of the gas tax right now operationally is being used for maintenance along the roadways. And then there's several other funding sources, and I'll go through that in a second. But the intention is that we would have a 8.5 by 11 document that has several funding sources, individual projects, and it will take this information that we're working off these spreadsheets today and have it in a standalone document. A 5-year CIP, the way we've constructed it, every agency does it a little different, but generally a 5-year outlay is pretty typical. We look at the current fiscal year we're in right now. So even though we've already budgeted last, June in 22, we still need to keep track of all the costs that are going in this current fiscal year. You have a beginning balance that you know of at the start of July 1 of 23, or 22, I'm sorry, 22. And then you're tracking your costs through the end of this fiscal year. Things always change, as we've talked about today. And so some projects get pushed back, some projects get moved forward, whatever the reason. So then you make a projection to what your beginning balance is going to be on July 1 of this year. So the first sheet of the spreadsheet, the 11 by 17, is fiscal year 23. So it's looking at all the costs that are going to end by June 30th of this year. And there's some changes in here. Some of the paving project, for example, is getting pushed back. So there was budgeted money, and what you're seeing, the cost right here in the furthest right column, those costs are related to the 22 paving project that was already constructed, generally speaking. But it also includes some design costs for 23's project that we've already spent. So that's why you see design costs, even though this thing was designed many years, almost 2 years ago. My intention in the long term is to separate these out. For the purpose of this discussion, I kept it all in one roadway or paving program, but I think ideally we're going to set a 22 paving project and a 24 paving project, so you could see and track individual projects. But walking through this spreadsheet, you see the beginning balance at the top. We have projected revenue through the end of this fiscal year. The line item that I really want to point out is the yellow line. These are operating costs that are part of the budget that was just discussed that we need to keep track of, because we don't want to double spend the money, that are not capital improvement project related costs. So several of these funds have that. Gas tax, the landscape maintenance district is another one, is a good example. Others don't use any operating costs or very little. So that's why there's a lot of variability in it. But then you get to, a projected end balance. And what we're really programming is fiscal year 24, which starts July 1 and goes through June 30 of 25. And that's really what the council will be approving. The next 3 years after that are forecasts, essentially. It's a good practice that the city starts to figure out, well, especially a city with limited, every city is limited, but you should have an idea of, okay, what you need to save up for. I would recommend the city does not do an annual paving project every year. The scale of the project would be smaller, and you can benefit from some economy of scale of waiting up to 3 years potentially and saving those dollars, and then doing one big project as one example. Obviously, you lose a little bit of time. You're waiting 3 years as opposed to doing every year, so the roads will get a little bit worse, but you're also trying to save money by doing it in a bundle, right? But those are decisions that you can make in a CIP that looks out on a horizon beyond just the annual budget. Of the funding sources on here, you can see, and I won't go through each individual one, but I try to identify any of the funding sources that may have any capital-related project. I didn't, like streetlights was not included in here because I did not believe there's going to be a capital improvement project utilizing those funds given the current situation as well, that it's in a deficit. But, those could be added. But, it's how many you want to keep track of, for example. But generally, road-related projects are gas tax, RMRA, RMRA is a special form of the gas tax. Measure J, which is through Contra Costa's countywide sales tax measure for transportation. And Measure J 28A, which is a sub-program of Measure J. Those are all road-related projects. The other districts like landscape maintenance, Grove Park, Oakhurst, Diablo Estates, those are specifically assessed against properties within a certain district. So that all the improvements need to be, or expenditures need to be in that district. So those are very restricted, obviously, just to a certain degree, gas taxes just to roads. So as an example, the Cardinet Trail, which is not on a road, would not be really eligible for gas tax funds. So you have to look for alternative funds. The Capital Improvement Fund has been a fund traditionally used by the city as the kind of the holding fund before the capital projects is executed. So dollars would be transferred via the budget from gas tax or RMRA into this capital fund to pay for a capital project. But I would say in general, there is some money still, obviously there's still a balance there as of today. Most of those funds, and I have not looked through all the history, are probably road related, gas tax or Measure J related. So I've kept those ones to be eligible for those types of projects. In general, we looked at, the city, for the most part, has most of its focus on paving, probably sidewalk-related projects, some drainage-related projects. So those will fall into the gas tax funding. But trail-related projects, anything that's park, those will need to come out of a different fund. And depending if it's the Grove Park, then obviously you could utilize the Grove District. Or you're going to have to utilize a likely general fund to pay for those particular projects. The other element I would say is there's different cost accounting codes that I think ClearGov uses. So it's generally broken down into design, construction contract, and monitoring/inspection or construction management. We probably will not utilize the closeout punch list as so much unless there's a specific reason for it. But those are the four main categories that we would segregate the project costs into. So that's the general overview. I would say highlights from the CIP that are noted in the staff report. We already talked about the $500,000 for Cardinal Trail. The GAD district has capital improvement projects. We can wait on those and build from just the base and decide on what to be added. The other thing of note I would like the committee to see is an increase in ADA projects. The city is dealing with a request from FHWA from a complaint for ADA access, in particular along Clayton Road. So we are trying to make an effort to make more improvements than what's even required. Generally, when you repave a street, you need to upgrade all the ramps to current ADA standards. But beyond that, the ADA requirement says that you have to have a compliance program that is actively trying to make improvements beyond what's just the minimum required. So we looked at a sort of a one-time initial project with follow-up projects every couple years after we've aggregated dollars. So it's not terribly complicated, in terms of there's not a lot of different projects, but we tried to outlay the funding in more in a biannual or even a 3-year cycle, and trying to aggregate costs of design, inspection, and sometimes offsetting. We looked at, do we do a paving project one year and then the ADA project the offsetting year, those type of things to balance things out. And frankly, there's going to be projects that come up, from resident requests that, the council will have to consider on an annual basis as well. So I'm happy to take questions and love to get feedback so we can prepare the first draft.
Very quickly, I just have two quick questions. One is, I know we have it by year, but is there somewhere to also insert sort of the project start date and the estimated completion date of the project? Like, is it an eight-month project? That might be helpful. And the only other question I had was on the downtown pedestrian improvement. I thought some of that was Measure J. Is there not Measure J part of the downtown pedestrian improvement?
Yes, so I'll answer both your questions.
Okay.
I think in terms of the example project sheet, there is a description and justification section. I think it would be appropriate to add more detailed timeframes relative to just the project, not the fiscal year.
Okay.
That could be easily done. In terms of the downtown pedestrian project, if you look under fiscal year 24, the column Fund 230, the
Right.
grant, there's $272,421 there. What you don't see, if you have the Excel spreadsheet, there is a comments note, but 252,000 of that amount is what's called transportation livable communities. That money is a grant program administered through CCTA that comes out of Measure J money. It's just not
Okay.
return to source money.
Got it.
There's the difference of the 20,421 is a recently awarded, or it's about to be awarded, TDA grant that's added on. So they're combined as a grant source. Both are in a reimbursement situation, and they're expected to be expended in the contract cost of the project.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Especially the large size.
props on the layout. This layout's good. Good.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I got. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Public comment?
Mayor Juan, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Okay, I will close public comments. Thank you very much for that. And I am, we do have a stop at 6 p.m., so I want to make sure. I will open, so now we can move on to the investment policy, which is item C. I think I gave feedback and some suggested edits. Did you want to, we don't really need to introduce it because I did already, unless staff had any comment that they wanted to offer to the changes that were made. What I tried to do with this one, and I think Kim and I both kind of like chatted about it a little bit, we tried to normalize it against what was already there versus the changes that we wanted to make from the prior. There's some language, and I had some questions in Amala, and she kind of gave feedback as well. So this is reflective of all of that, and unless there was comments from staff, I'm pretty comfortable with it, and I think, I won't speak for you, but are you comfortable
No,
with it as well?
my questions were again about the earlier investment results of the 500,000 and receiving our next quarterly investment report. And that was it. Great
And so
job.
Yeah, and I would encourage staff to have our UBS representative who have them present as well on what they said. They committed to meeting with us on a quarterly basis, so I would do that as well. So that was really, I didn't have anything on this one. So I would open public comment on item C if there is any.
And Mayor Juan, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Okay, close public comment. Item D. Item D is the update to the master fee schedule. I will say, I think this one is only reflective of the all-in salaries, or sorry, all-in employee costs, but it doesn't reflect any of our actual fees for other services, and I was kind of expecting that to be ready at this point. So my question is, I will start with, how did we bake in to the budget the results of the fees if we didn't have it? And I think the answer is that we only baked in the wage costs, but not fees for any other areas. Is that accurate?
So let me just, so when we did the labor cost analysis, the fully built labor rate that is presented to you, that is a component of the fee schedule. So what we did is we estimated the fees budget based on this estimated fully built cost.
Yeah, I understand that part. So
But
I guess
the
my
other
question is on the
portion-
other portions of the fee schedule that isn't employee costs.
Most of these fees are employee costs. If they're not employee costs, it's not built in.
Okay, so that answers that question.
Mm-hmm.
When are we going to get because I think per the schedule that you had provided both originally and then the updated schedule, I think based on the revised schedule, we were supposed to see a draft of the fee study this meeting.
So the other items that Councilmember Mayor Wan that I believe you're referring to are the non-employee driven fees. And when we originally were doing the study, we're doing the study based on the existing fees that we have at the moment. And we reached out to all the departments and basically walked through with them to get the number of hours or what does it take to maintain things that is part of the current fees that we have, the book that we are updating. But as I understand, I had a discussion with the city manager, but there were a few other areas where we want to charge fees. For example, the parking lots and...
Yeah, and I know that wasn't in scope. I'm not talking about that.
Oh.
I'm just talking about like what is in the existing fee schedule. It just seems like that should have been here, but it's not. So like, for example, the there's a fee for renting the Grove for a picnic, if you have a birthday party or something like that, right? But that's not included in this. So when are we going to get that?
So, and again, the part of that, that fee includes the labor or the staff.
Yes, I got the labor part. So let's table the labor.
Yes.
I'm just talking about the non-labor components.
You'll see.
When are we going to get that?
Next meeting, that's what
But
you're
that's going to be at the end of, this is the end of April. So that will be the end of May. How will that be incorporated in the budget in time to be approved by the end of
Just
June?
like the number of things that we are seeking direction today from you in the budget, we got direction from, like, for example, one of the things we are providing to you, the line item budget, we will receive direction from you regarding that as well. And what we'll do is that part of our analysis, our thought process has been that once we get this labor rates completed, on the other that has non-labor side of it, we'll build in a budget saying that these are the fees that are going up based on analysis. We'll present it to you.
So I guess my question then is, per the revised schedule, we were supposed to get that today. So what happened that we didn't get it today? I get that we're going to get it next time, but I'm curious as to what happened from last time to this time.
We have been, part of the delay has been on our team to get we were working on the labor costing. It took a little bit of time. We have a new person, our new finance director, and building the census file. That was a huge part of the cost. I mean, the analysis is the knowing that who spends time and what is their cost of that time. So we actually, instead of just doing on Excel, we actually built a labor costing module, basically, and that's what's in here. And that process got delayed by a couple of weeks, and that by the time that we were able to fully vet the labor costs, that delayed the whole thing.
Okay, so then I think I would say, we read through the materials for the labor components, and I think that's fine. I was actually I'd like to explore that in more detail, but I'd like to do that as part of the whole because one will inform the other.
Yeah.
And so I think it would, in order to facilitate the budget process, and rather than wait till the end of May, ignore the schedule for a moment of the end of May Budget and Audit Committee. When is the soonest we can get the full picture? And then we will schedule a time to discuss it then.
Absolutely, and that's good request. What we're hoping is that in 2 weeks, we'll have all those schedules ready to go. And we can even, and at that point, we could even have a, if the city manager, we could even send that to the committee members in advance of the meeting or anything. It doesn't have to. There's no action being taken. You're just receiving information.
Well, I think I want to, I guess, given the importance of this, I'd like the opportunity rather than just to look at it. I want to make sure that we have sufficient time to make changes if necessary.
Sure.
So if we're talking 2 weeks, that's fine. I don't know what your schedule's like, but let's work on scheduling another meeting prior to the May meeting. Yeah. And we can do that. Let's target like the week of May 15th. We'll find a time that works, and then we'll do it then, and then we could talk about the entire thing together. Yeah.
So if I am just don't want to, if I'm understanding, you basically want to see the updated fee schedule, including the labor component and non-labor component, the current fee schedules, and you want to see the updated. What does the fee look like?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we will do a red line version so you could see the changes, or we'll put a new fee schedule, new fees, existing fees.
That would be best, not a red line. A red line with a table is very difficult to read in general, but a comparison table to table is better.
We'll put a summary page for new fees, existing fees, and then the fee schedules attached to it.
Okay. Okay, and that's I think is good for now.
I do wanted to see if there is any questions on the fully, because this is we basically listed everything that the city's employees are entitled to, and we listed out as the part of the report. One of the things we also included as part of the attachment are citywide reimbursement fees. This is missing.
Yeah, that's the thing I focused on. So it looks like in your example, you are saying a department operating expense multiplier of 25%, indirect cost rate of 20%.
It varies because this is just an example I put in here. But when we did the actual analysis, finance administrative services department, the multiplier is lower than a department that is a revenue producing department like community development, because finance has, the only small portion of their work is supporting the fee program. So we did do that analysis. So I was supposed to change that. I put it in parentheses, but I was supposed to not just say that 20 and 25% applies to globally, but we did do it based on departments and what their scope of work is. And for example, police services has some fees in there, but a majority of police department cost is general fund cost when they're patrolling, public safety, protecting property. So we took out the portion that is applied to fees that they spend and make sure that the operating cost multiplier and the citywide cost multiplier only applies to the portion that's related to fees.
So if you're going to do that, then it'd be better to have it in a table so you could see by department. If you're going to have deltas between the overhead rate,
Yeah,
unless
we
you're
could
going to
have
use one blended rate, which I assume that this is a blended rate, but if it's a single blended, but if it's a multi-blended based on department, then you should probably have that.
Yeah, and if you
Here.
look at the table 1 that I put in here, and that's what I was trying to show, that if you look at table 1 continued on page 404, you'll see general support cost multiplier, operating expenses multiplier for two different positions, and you'll see that the operating expense multiplier for one department is 22%, the other department is 12%. And the one department is 26%, the other department is 14%. So we did this for every position by department base, but we'll be happy to put a summary table together that illustrates this.
Okay, sounds good.
And we'll put that in actually the book of fee document so it becomes very transparent.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Public comment?
Mayor Juan, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Okay, then I will.
Agenda items for next time or something.
Okay.
This meeting that you're talking about having in 2 weeks to look at this, what is it, the non-labor component of the master fee schedule, is that to be a public meeting?
Yes,
Okay, that's my question.
it'll be just like this one.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be agendized like normal, and you'll get, if you're signed up for our alerts, you'll get that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Mayor Juan, I do not have any hands or other public comment on this item.
Okay, I will close public comment, and then I will do something. I don't know, sorry. That concludes item D. Next, there is no thing for future items, but feel free to
Well,
make
I do
the
have
comment.
something, just 2 quick things. I know we're running out of time here, but one is that I noticed on the employee compensation schedule, we still refer to your title as finance manager instead of finance director. I thought, just to be for consistency, finance
In the
director.
book of fee,
What, excuse me?
in the book of fee staff report?
Employee compensation schedule?
Okay, I'll take a look.
Okay. And the very last thing for our May meeting, I know at some point, and I'm not sure if this is going to be May, but that you were going to come back to us with a little bit more comprehensive list of all of our contract service providers, vendors, and I was hoping we could include consultants on that list too, with maybe what they do and, again, the start date and end date of their contracts, the value. And I'm thinking, MIG, MRG, GovInvest, BSK, so on and so forth.
One of the
That would
things
be
I will, Councilmember Trupiano and Mayor Juan, is that we have a lot of work that we are working on as part of the budget. And so some of this, that request that on the vendor list it's a lot of like, I would say, heavy labor intensive to put it together because we don't have a system for some of those, where we want to make sure that we give you the information that is valuable in terms of vendor name, contract amount, what did they do. And so it's just very labor intensive. Contract end period date is also important. I just even I know it's in May, but we were just talking today that's in order to put together a comprehensive list for you in May, it may be a little bit challenging because of all the other stuff that is coming. We have some regulatory reports that we need to do, like Measure J report with the county. Also have to do the redevelopment agency reports and stuff too. So I just wanted to.
Well,
I have a suggestion. Perhaps I think it may be not that difficult to generate a list of like a check register or like list of spend for, I guess I would say FY23 and FY22.
Yeah.
If we have that with vendor name, amount, and whatever is in the description field, just generate a list from the system. I can probably assemble something that will allow us to hone questions so that you don't have to boil the ocean. We could just focus on some of the key items. So I think generating the list should be relatively straightforward, I hope. And then we can do the legwork on the rest.
we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, just to clarify, so we can generate a report from the financial system that is all the vendors and based on the amount of what is paid out to the whatever the given years on that one.
I'm thinking more of a line, like a check. You know how each council meeting we have the register of
Check
spend?
register.
So you
So
want
we
to
just-
details
Because
of the.
I'll
the
aggregate it.
Okay.
Because
so-
that has detail on it already. It's built in, so you don't have to do anything new. And that'll help give insight into what it is, and then I can assemble, and then we can talk about it.
Right, and the only thing it might not have is start date,
Yeah,
end date.
that's okay.
And
Well,
Yeah.
that way it'll allow
Yep.
us to ask more focused questions so that
Sure.
you could dig into things that are more specific rather than looking at all of them, because I
Yeah.
think that is a
That
lot
is,
of
yeah.
a heavy lift. But then we'll just ask specific ones, and then we'll focus on the ones
Absolutely.
that we think are more important, and then we could like stratify the requests.
Thank you for that. I appreciate
Does that work?
Yes.
Yeah, it works.
thanks, guys. Thank you. Great job.
All right, thank you. I will adjourn the meeting at 5:56. Thank you.